So I'm trying to understand this. On your street where you grew up, there was mostly people from Poland.
No, there was a couple of Italians.
But wasn't there different sections of Niagara Falls?
Well, Forest Avenue was all Italian.
And then they named that Little Italy?
Little Italy, yeah.
And was there much more Italians in the Falls than there was Polish?
I think it was equally divided. The Polish were down in McCann, Allen Avenue and all that stuff.
And when you said you had a paper route, that paper route was strictly a Polish newspaper.
Gina Laszczynski, yeah, it was a Polish paper, yeah.
Did any of those people that took that paper try to learn English, or they were happy with just staying with Polish?
Well, they took that paper, and they took the Polish paper for the news at home. But they could read American papers, so they had, I gave them the Gazette, which is American, and I gave them the Gina Laszczynski, which is a Polak. So they kept in touch with where they lived.
How about so 100% of your newspaper customers were Polish, correct?
Yeah.
Were they all good payers?
No.
No, I thought they would
They
have...
said, well, I paid you last week. I'll pay you next week.
I thought they would have great high standards.
Huh?
I thought they'd have great high standards in pay. So a lot of them didn't pay?
Saturday was a miserable day for me. That's when I collected the money for the week.
So but most of them paid.
Most of them paid, but they were 3 or 4 weeks behind. The biggest offender was that guy that had I can't think of his name. He had a business, and he was the worst payer there was. He said, I'll pay you next week. I don't have any money. And he had a business.
Did he end up paying you?
I can't think of what business he had now.
Did he end up paying you?
Eventually he had to pay me, but I quit the job, and he said, I'll pay you later, but he never paid me when he see me that he owed. He didn't even mention it.
So they're stiffing a newspaper boy.
Yeah. Switched it around.
Did your mother read that newspaper?
She read the Polak paper, but I don't think she read the Gazette.
She didn't. How about your Polish accordion teacher? Was he on your list to deliver the papers to?
Yeah, Melashinsky, yeah.
Did he pay good?
Well, he paid good because I paid him for the stupid lesson, or my father paid him for the lessons. So when my father paid him for the lessons, he got paid.
Did your father sit during your accordion lessons and listen?
No.
He had no interest, or just had no time?
He wasn't musically inclined at all.
He had no interest?
No.
Did your father play the radio a lot at the house?
Hey, he played the radio for the news and a football game or something, yeah.
Say the ball games.
Yeah.
And that was it?
Yeah.
He wasn't interested in music?
No.
Was your mother interested in music?
No, not too much. Well, she's too busy housemaking, taking care of kids. Yeah, not for that nonsense.
How different this was compared to the other kitchens I've seen under more happier conditions. Just as then I heard the footsteps outside the hallway, jumbling the keys in the door. It was my sister Sally. She had grown taller and filled out somewhat, a considerable change from several years ago. I knew immediately that she had taken after my father, both in looks and personality. I hugged and kissed her on the cheek, and she seemed pleased to see me again. We chatted about the usual small talk, and then she inquired about my experiences in the service. Naturally, I was vague and non-committal. After a while, she went into the bedroom, changed, and returned to say that she was due at her girlfriend's house and would be back before mother returned from work. How all this was a repeat of the time of my furlough struck me at once. I thought nothing had changed, and I had been a fool to think otherwise. So when you came home on furlough, your sister Sally, she was always busy with her friends.
Pegler, yeah.
And then when you came back for good, it was like the same thing. She was so busy.
Same thing over, yeah. But she was a year older, too.
She was what?
She was a year older.
Did she invite you to go with her to her friends?
Yeah, she got more smart talk.
Yeah. After Sally left, I walked about the house, getting more depressed the longer I stayed in these surroundings. What I was feeling was nothing new. I had anticipated, but I guess I was not fully prepared for it to be so severe and grim. By now my stomach was growling, which added to my anguish and my discomfort. But I dare not get something to eat. I finally settled for a glass of cold water, remembering how cold the tap water got in the winter. I ran the water for a while and filled my glass. I got out of the cupboards. I could see that it was cold and the outer surface of the glass became misted. The water tasted good and I drank several glasses, which refreshed me somewhat. I rinsed the glass, wiped it dry with a paper towel, and returned it to the proper place in the cupboard. So that water was pretty cold there during the winter.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It must have been very refreshing.
Yeah.
Very refreshing, right?
It was good tasting water, too. They didn't have to smell it up until it was a good
How do you like the water in Florida?
Florida's terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's terrible, yeah.
Okay. I heard a car stop outside. In front, I presumed it was Mother returning from work. She would occasionally get a ride home.
No, my mother didn't drive.
No, she never drove.
They never drove, no.
But she would occasionally get a ride home, but mostly walked to and from work, even in the cold winter months. The kitchen door opened and Mother entered. She looked the same except being a little heavier, but to the extent that I would not call her fat. I could still smell the familiar odor she brought with her from work on her clothes.
Yeah, she worked for carborundum. She had that stench from carborundum.
And the smell
of grinding wheels there and everything else. Yeah.
And the smell of sandpaper and permeated glue. She appeared shorter than I remembered her, and I could still see the deep look of despair in her eyes. It was always with her. I hugged her for a moment and she kissed me on the cheek. She started to cry and I wondered if it was for joy at seeing me home safely, or more than the mere fact she was once again relieved of the many other responsibilities that had been thrust upon me until I went into the service. We talked for a while, and she wanted to be certain that I was home for good and not just another furlough. I assured her that I was out of the Army and civilian once again. She felt both relieved and apprehensive at the prospect of me being home. Mother made a special spaghetti dinner that night to celebrate my homecoming. How was your mother's spaghetti dinners?
The what?
How was your mother's spaghetti dinners?
Oh, she made a special dinner, yeah.
With your mother's spaghetti dinners, would she serve sausages or meatballs?
Meatballs. Yeah.
And was your mother's spaghetti dinners?
No, she didn't serve spaghetti and meatballs. She smoked prime rib. Prime rib, mashed potatoes, the whole works.
She'd have spaghetti in a sauce?
Pie?
She'd have spaghetti and then prime ribs?
No, she had spaghetti, had prime ribs and mashed potatoes. She didn't have no spaghetti, no.
Two different meals.
Okay, I see. You said over here, though, let me read back, that, Mother made me a special spaghetti dinner. Mother made me a special spaghetti dinner.
Well, that was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, yeah.
Okay. That night to celebrate my homecoming. I felt happy for her and I could see the relief in her face. And as she looked at me, assuming I would take over all the chores she disliked. So at that time, you took over all the chores again.
The what?
At that time, once you came home, you took over all the work chores of keeping up the house.
Yeah. You mean doing the work?
The work at the house. The work.
No, my mother did it with a good housekeeper, yeah. Sally was a good housekeeper.
But you had to do, like the handyman's work, anything.
Oh, yeah, anything with, John do this, John do that, John do this, all that nonsense.
So you had a pretty busy schedule.
Huh?
You had a busy schedule fixing things.
Oh, yeah. Well, nothing was taken care of, but my father was gone.
And the other brothers didn't do?
Yeah, Stevie was never home. Looky was too busy gallivanting around.
Yeah. I was a little aggravated and annoyed as to why I was singled out to perform all these duties when both my brothers were excluded from any responsibilities. I noted that Sally was also in the same category as my brothers. So even your sister wasn't assigned duties.
The what?
Even your sister was not assigned chores to do at home.
No, she was hooked up with Mary Figler. And she was still in school.
I noted that Sally was also in the same category as my brothers, as they all seemed to be living in a world of their own choosing. I believe Mother saw the same thing and gave her sensation of isolation and helplessness. For a fleeting moment that night, I gained a glittering insight of why I felt compelled, yes, even obligated to return and stay. For the first time, I saw in my mother's face the reflection of helplessness and despair which I had often witnessed in the people of France and Germany during the war. It seems as though they were caught up in the vortex of the war, nowhere to turn to help or guidance.
Yeah, when I came home, I took over. My mother dropped all responsibility.
So you
She
were
said,
back.
Johnny, what are we going to do now? Johnny, do this. Johnny, do that. Johnny, do that. And she just got out of the picture.
Well, you were a great son for doing all that.
What did you say, good sap?
I said you were a great son for taking.
Yeah, so Stevie didn't look up to it. Looky was too busy gallivanting around. Sally was socializing too much.
What was left for them was misery, isolation, and finally death. This is how I saw in my mother's eyes that night, and her stubborn defiance to remain singly independent despite the reality of her situation. She realized that she could not depend on 3 of her 4 children to sustain her throughout the remainder of her life. So how many children did you have all together?
Huh?
How many children did your mother have all together? How many children?
Tell them, children.
How many
3
children?
boys and a girl.
How many?
3 boys and a girl.
So let me pick up on this again. She realized that she could not depend on 3 of her 4 children to help sustain her throughout the remainder of her life. So she clutched desperately at one remaining positive alternative, which is you.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, I resented it, but did nothing about it. It was not long before I was back in the same routine that I resolved I would never return to.
Yeah.
That first night at home, I slept on our couch, same as I had on furlough. Sally would need time to adjust to me being home and how we would arrange the sleeping accommodations. I slept very little that night as I felt I was among strangers in a strange unknown place. I thought of Renee, how much I missed her and what she was doing at this very moment. I also thought how I had botched up my life and not grasping the few opportunities that were afforded me. I dreamed that night that I was back in the Ardrings where Fink got killed, and I woke in a cold sweat and shivering. These dreams would haunt and tantalize me for the longest time, and I would not get rid of them until the early part of my marriage. During those first weeks at home, my thoughts would turn to Renee constantly, her determination and independence of thought, and how I wished that we had done something with our lives together. I was glad we were not writing to each other, for I would be reluctant to say what I was doing now, at least in the Army. I had a purpose and intensity in what I was doing. Here there was nothing, no matter how hard I tried, I could not come up with a solution to my predicament. I would sink deeper and deeper in a morass of intimidation and conditioning, and there is nothing left but automatic reflexes.
Often what?
Automatic reflexes. Automatic reflexes. Several months had passed since my discharge, and things have gotten back to their regular permanence. Sally had moved into Mother's room, and I would share the remaining bedroom with Lookie. Now, Lookie's your brother, but you would share the bedroom with him. Was he even around?
Yeah, he'd come home, throw on the floor and everything. My mother said, you get that picked up before you go to school. Oh, me.
He would do what, throw his clothes on the floor?
Huh?
Did you say he'd throw his clothes on the floor?
He'd throw up on the floor. He's drunk coming home.
Oh, and you shared a bedroom with your brother.
Yeah.
And then what happened when he would throw up on the floor?
Well, my mother said, you get that cleaned up before you go to school. Me, I get it cleaned up. Lookie didn't bother. She wouldn't
And what
bother
did your
Lookie.
brother say about all this? He created the mess. What did he say about it?
F this, I'm not going to do it.
So he would swear a lot?
Huh?
He would swear?
No, he didn't swear around my mother. I didn't swear at home, no.
But was he...
But he got those guys from the tavern. They were a clique.
So he was... What happened to him at that time? He was hanging around with a bad crowd.
Yeah, he was Steiffenberg, Mickey Alzo, and all those guys.
How the hell do you remember these names?
Mickey
How the
Alzo,
hell do you remember these names?
Steiffenberg,
How the hell
Leslie.
do you remember these names?
Yeah.
That's over 80-some years ago.
I didn't like any of those kids.
They were all drinkers.
Yeah,
They're all drinkers, right?
yeah.
Did
They
they
would
all-
come over and give me a hand when I used to do work around the house, put a ladder up or something. I would struggle with that 24-foot ladder by myself. They would see me doing it, they'd walk away.
Were
And
they-
then no compunctions about being guilty or nothing. If I fell with the ladder, so what?
Were they ex-military?
Huh? No.
How do they avoid it?
They escaped the draft. They're right in the middle.
So they didn't have to go at all?
No.
Did they thank you for going to war?
No. Why would they do that?
You kept the country, you kept them free?
I set them free. They didn't think of that long. They think I was a pain in the neck.
Wow.
Time.
She was still working, my mother was still working, but I believe she resented the fact that she was the sole supporter in the household. She began hinting at me at first that I'd get some type of work. I realized I had not lived here without bringing in some form of income, but could not find any suitable work. I had reported to an unemployment agency, but since I had no real skills, there were very few jobs that paid anything. There were thousands of GIs returning to the labor market with all kinds of skills and aptitude. I did not have a chance without some formal education. I thought of school, but here again my formal education was limited, and the college and universities were full of GIs returning, better qualified than I. I did not believe Mother realized the situation, as she saw her only little splice of it and was oblivious to anyone else's situation. So when you got out of service, there's tens of thousands of military men, ex-military men, all looking for the same job.
Well, a lot of them went back to school because they were given six full college education. I was given a PL-16. I could go to any college in the country
And you didn't use it?
and get free. Yeah.
You didn't use it, right? Okay.
You could still use it.
Huh?
You could still use it today.
What?
You could go to college today.
That what?
You could still use it
You can still
today.
use it today, the VA bill. You can
Oh
still-
yeah. I'm 90 years old.
So what?
The brain matter's gone.
You know, you're sharp as a tack. You remember names of 85 years ago. You read the newspapers without glasses, You're sharp as a tack. The brain is not gone.
Yeah.
There's nowhere close to saying that.
Yeah.
Nowhere close to saying that. I beg your pardon.
I'm a hero. I'm a hero.
You survived this long.
Yeah.
And you got a great sense of humor.
Huh?
You got a great sense of humor, too.
Yeah.
I do not believe Mother realized the situation. My chances of finding appropriate employment was almost non-existent.
You didn't get a job yet? You're not working?
What
You
was
slept
this?
till 9 o'clock this morning. Get up and go look for work.
Is this what your mother would tell you on a daily basis?
Huh?
Is this what your mother would tell you on a daily basis?
And I wound up working with my uncle. And my uncle didn't talk to me for the first 2 weeks.
Wasn't he a nice guy?
He was a nice guy, but if you got him pissed off, he was a bad guy.
Wait, why didn't he talk to you?
Huh?
You're his nephew.
Yeah, I did get a job through being related. I got it through the employment office. They said, there's a job opening. He said, we're looking for you for a job, John. You've been at it for about a month now. We got a job with Carsdale, CE Carsdale. I didn't know my uncle worked there. And then when he seen me coming in, he knew I was who I was, but he didn't say a word to me.
What a greeting. You're out of the military. You got your uncle working in Croydale, and he seen you walking on your first day, and he never said a damn word.
He never talked to me for about a week, and then he started talking to me. And then when I went back, when I got married, I left him for a while, and he got mad. He said, oh, I want you back here. You were working with me. He wanted me back.
So what happened?
I didn't go back. And then he passed away maybe a month later. He was 90 years old then.
But I don't understand. Croydale does what?
What?
What does Croydale do?
Carsdale had a sheet metal shop. He didn't do nothing. He got the customers for. He had a good outlet for all the factories of the town, Buffalo and Niagara Falls, and he get to do sheet metal work, duct work, and everything, and he get CE Carsdale to do the work.
And you had to work with him.
But he couldn't do it himself. The big fat guy.
That's your mother's brother?
Huh?
That's your mother's brother?
Yeah.
And and then you had to work side by side with him.
With Carsdale.
With your brother.
Yeah, but he knew who I was, but he didn't talk to me for a week.
But didn't that feel really uncomfortable?
Well, I felt uncomfortable after a while. He opened up, and we were good friends.
He turned out to be a nice guy.
I said, Johnny, do this, Johnny, do that.
So he got to know you well, and he gave you a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah, Uncle Andy, Uncle Johnny, Aunt Bernice, Aunt Sophie. They married brothers, married sisters. Sisters married
That's
brothers.
something.
Yeah.
When there was no one home during the day, I would sit on the couch and reminisce about the days at the Battle of Bulge and how great those times were, even though they're filled with danger and hardship. After a few minutes, I would remind myself that it's foolish and senseless to look back. I had to get my thoughts focused on the present and the future, then I would disregard my advice and think of Renee sitting in a warm, cozy kitchen with its roaring fire and its fireplace. I miss those times very much, and I wish that I could return to them once again, how my life was there.
Well, that would have been a big mistake if the radio was living at home.
It wouldn't have worked, right?
Oh, it wouldn't work. Big mistake, big mistake.
Well, you did the right thing then.
Yeah.
It was a great sacrifice, but you did the right thing then.
Well, then I got lucky. I got married with Delphine.
Yeah, so you
Delphine was a sweetheart.
You
She
did
was a
well. You
sweetheart,
were married 68, 70
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
and you won the lottery there. You couldn't ask for someone better. Couldn't ask for someone better. God rest her soul. Mother would lament to me about the disturbances I was creating by my reoccurring nightmares. So you were having nightmares and your mother was yelling at you.
Yeah,
My
my mother
mother-
would wake me up and said, you having a nightmare, I'd be on the floor.
And
I
she
fell out of
says,
bed.
you're disturbing the household, which added to me being perturbed. I felt awkward and resentful. She would reapproach
Well, I didn't have those nightmares long ago. Maybe 6 months and I was over it. I was over it, yeah.
especially when she would equate it to some sort of childish holdover or attention-getting device. I never told her what the nightmares were about, nor did she ask about those contents. I was alone most of the day and would start out in the morning making the rounds by bus looking for employment. At mid-afternoon, I would return home and wait for the onslaught by mother.
You didn't get a job yet? You got up 9 o'clock, you didn't get a job?
She's lucky to have you home from this war but many young kids were slaughtered. She's lucky to have you home.
Oh, yeah.
And plus you're a great
Yeah.
handyman there. You're doing everything.
She didn't buy the Loki. She didn't buy the Stevie. Stevie was never home. Loki was just a well-mounted home. He wandered around all over.
Wow.
Pick him up and paint a post and everything else, running away from home and all that nonsense.
I would return home to visit the onslaught by mother for her disgust with me for not finding some type of work. She would relate in no uncertain terms how she could not support everyone and still do all the household chores. But you were doing all the chores. You were doing all the work.
Well, I wasn't doing housekeeping. No, she was. My mother was capable of doing that. I would help her move the chairs, scrub the floors. I scrubbed the floors for her and everything else.
I would listen to this daily, and she would sermonize on how difficult it was for her. My sister would not insert her opinion, but neither would she go against mother and support me. After this daily outburst, they would return to the kitchen or bedroom, and I would begin to receive the silent treatment the rest of the night. And so now, after they're done yelling, they give you the silent
treatment. They closed the door, and that was it.
The next day would start all over again with never respite or emancipation. About the second or third month, I finally found a job with Weber Oil Company installing burners in converted fireplaces. What does that mean, converting burners?
Well, they were stoves was like ours. It burned, first of all, burned wood, then it burned peat coal, and then we converted it, took the grates out and put an oil burner in there. And this is what I was doing with Weber.
Was that more efficient?
Oh yeah, more. Then they went to gas, and I was doing the wiring and the insulation with him.
Did they have to have big oil tanks outside?
And the oil tanks outside, yeah. 250-gallon tanks.
You did all that?
Huh?
You did all that work?
Yeah.
Claire.
Okay, good night, Claire.
All right,
Be
good night,
careful.
Claire.
Nice to
Got
see
you
you
sleepy
again.
now, huh?
Nice to see Good night, Claire. It's our pleasure to have you here. How many
Good night,
seconds?
Claire.
How many seconds? Good night.
2 minutes.
Okay, I'll say about it, Claire, and I'll pick up on it. So that was a big conversion to oil tanks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good night, Claire.
That
So
was
you
a
had-
250-gallon oil tank down in the basement in all houses.
Did you eventually have to deliver the oil to the tanks?
Did I deliver it?
Yeah.
No, I didn't make any deliveries. I did the wiring, I did the stuff in the furnaces, and I did no deliveries.
Was that a hard job delivering oil? I imagine it's a big truck and a long hose.
Yeah, I didn't do
But
that.
is that a hard job?
Well, in the wintertime it was cold. These guys had gloves on. They had all arthritis in their hands.
Yeah. I've heard that before. About the second or third month, I finally found a job with Weber Oil Company installing oil burners and converted furnaces. That must have been unlimited work because there's so many conversions to do.
Yeah, that was a good job. Yeah, I did that for a long time.
It was not my liking, but at least it would silence my mother. It would silence my
No,
mother.
I got shafted. I got hooked up with a guy from Canada, and we got into the business. And I told him I do the converting, I do the electrical work, and he said you do the fireboxes and that. He said okay, we'll do that job. He'd take the old furnace firebox out, put the new firebox in, and I would do the wiring and I would do that. But then he was Canadian. He had to come over the border every day.
Oh,
So they had a record. So they found out he had a record. They let him over.
oh wow. That's me. How many minutes?
10 seconds.
Huh?
Tomorrow we'll pick up.
It just shut off for now.
Okay.
Time to go?
No, we gotta,
Huh?
no, the tape ran out.